There's something about authenticity that terrifies the world. It's raw. It's unfiltered. It's unapologetic. And you are the embodiment of that truth. You didn't play the game. You didn't buy into the rules they set. The rules designed to benefit the pretenders, the manipulators, the ones who think wearing masks is the way to survive. But you walked into their carefully constructed stage and tore it down without saying a word, because your presence spoke louder than any noise they could create. They saw you, really saw you, and they panicked. Why? Because you reminded them of everything they were running from. You were the mirror they tried to avoid, the reflection of honesty they couldn't bear to face. They had spent years perfecting their act, crafting a facade that fooled everyone. Except you. You didn't buy it. You couldn't. You were too real. They couldn't fake it anymore. At first, they underestimated you. They called you naive, weak, or worse, arrogant. They tried to undermine you, twist your words, and question your worth. That's what people do when they're scared. They tear down what they don't understand. But here's the thing. Truth doesn't flinch. It doesn't bend, it doesn't break. They threw stones at you, but those stones, they only built your foundation. They tried to dim your light, but all they did was make you burn brighter. Because authenticity? It's not just about being honest with the world. It's about being honest with yourself. And you knew exactly who you were. That's the difference. That's what they couldn't fake. You see, the world has this habit of celebrating the loudest person in the room, the one who can sell the best lie. But you didn't shout to be heard. You didn't perform to be noticed. You simply were. And that scared them. Because when someone shows up as their full, unapologetic self, they don't just take up space, they shift the room. They tried to compete with you, didn't they? They tried to outshine you, outsmart you, outrun you. But here's the truth. You can't compete with real. You can't outrun the truth. And they felt it. The weight of your presence, the gravity of your conviction. Every time you walked into the room, it wasn't just your words that spoke. It was your energy. That unshakable confidence. That undeniable clarity. It didn't matter what they said about you behind closed doors, because when it was time to show up, you delivered. They wanted to see you break. Oh, how they wanted that. Because your strength was a reminder of everything they lacked. But what they didn't realize is that you weren't just strong. You were relentless. They thought the fire inside you would burn you out. But that fire, it wasn't destroying you, it was forging you. They threw challenges your way, thinking they'd crush you. But every challenge was just another step on your path. They gossiped, lied, manipulated. But none of it mattered. Why? Because you don't answer to them. You answer to you. And that's the secret, isn't it? They wanted control over you, but you were never playing their game. You don't live for their approval. You don't exist to meet their expectations, because the truth is their opinions, they're as hollow as their actions. You don't need them, you never did. You were too real, they couldn't fake it anymore. And now as you stand here stronger than ever, they've fallen silent. Not because they've run out of things to say, but because they finally understand something they refused to admit before. They were never in your league. You weren't competing with them. You were creating a path they didn't have the courage to walk. You were building something they couldn't comprehend. You were living at a level they couldn't even imagine. And that's why they tried to stop you. Not because you were wrong, but because you were right. Because you showed them what's possible when you refuse to compromise. When you choose authenticity over approval. When you choose growth over comfort. So now what? What happens next? I'll tell you. You keep going. Not to prove them wrong, but to prove yourself right. You see, this journey was never about them, it was about you. It was about rising when they wanted you to fall. It was about speaking when they tried to silence you. It was about staying true to who you are, no matter how much pressure they put on you to change. And now, as you look back at everything you've overcome, remember this. They didn't break you because they couldn't. They couldn't because they didn't understand you. And they didn't understand you because you were operating on a level they couldn't reach. That's the beauty of being real. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to keep showing up, so stand tall. Keep shining, keep rising, because the world needs more people like you. People who are willing to be vulnerable, raw, and unapologetically themselves. People who don't hide from their truth but embrace it. People who refuse to settle for anything less than greatness. They'll keep talking, of course. That's what people do when they're left behind. But you're not looking back. You're too busy building a future that no one else could envision but you. So let them whisper. Let them doubt. Let them watch. Because at the end of the day, they'll realize one thing. You were too real for them to handle. And that's your superpower. They built their lives on lies, carefully constructed illusions designed to keep the truth buried. It worked for a while, didn't it? They walked around with their masks, their fake smiles, their hollow words, fooling everyone. Everyone but you. Because when you walked into the room, the air changed, not with noise, not with a roar, but with silence. A heavy silence that cut through the charade like a blade. You didn't have to announce yourself. Your presence spoke for you. It was in the way you stood, firm, grounded, unshaken. It was in the way you looked at them, unapologetic, unwavering. You were too real and it terrified them. They had spent years perfecting their act, building their fragile empires on foundations of pretense and deceit. But one moment of your truth was enough to make it all crumble. They hated you for it. Not because you did anything wrong, but because your authenticity exposed their lies. They couldn't match your fire, so they tried to extinguish it. They couldn't match your strength, so they tried to break you. They couldn't match your truth, so they spread lies. And yet here you are, standing taller than ever, while they cower in the shadows of their own insecurities. Do you remember how they doubted you? The whispers, the side eyes, the smirks. They thought you wouldn't make it. They wanted to see you fail. Because every step you took forward was a reminder of everything they lacked. But you didn't stumble. You didn't break. You didn't quit. Because your strength doesn't come from what they think of you. Your strength comes from knowing who you are. You see people like them? They thrive in environments where everyone is pretending, where lies are currency and masks are armor. But you didn't play their game. You didn't need to. Because real power doesn't come from deception. It comes from authenticity, from integrity, from the courage to stand in your truth, even when the whole world wants you to sit down. They tried to silence you, didn't they? They tried to twist your words, question your intentions, and tarnish your name. But here's the thing about truth. It doesn't need defending. It doesn't need validation. Truth is like the sun. You can try to cover it, block it, deny it, but eventually it will shine through. And when your light hit them, they couldn't fake it anymore. Their lies became too obvious, their masks too thin. The weight of your authenticity crushed the foundation of their deceit. At first they laughed at you, then they mocked you. But when that didn't work, they feared you, because you were everything they pretended to be. They saw your strength and called it arrogance. They saw your confidence and called it defiance. They saw your resilience and called it stubbornness. But you didn't owe them an explanation. They don't know the battles you've fought, the nights you've spent building yourself from the ground up.